Good afternoon, everyone. Talent is a word we often use. But how would you define the word talent? Is this something we're naturally good at? Or is this something we're born to do? Well, that's how someone would usually define it. This one line I always hear. It goes, talent is something you're born with. You either have it or not. It implies that having talent is fixed. Having talent is out of your control. Having talent is something you can't change. So, does that mean talent is innate? Well, wait. Let's step back for a second. And I want to share my personal story about talent. So, when I was 12, back at my village, I had this huge upcoming science exam that was worth over 90% of my grades. It covered topics ranging from complicated electricity to confusing photosynthesis. So I knew I had to put the work in. I studied day in and day out until I thought I was ready. But I thought wrong because I failed horribly. My teacher, she pulled me aside. She asked me, "Did you even study?" I told her, yes, I did. I tried my best. But she shouted at me and she said, "Then, if that's your best, maybe you're just not talented enough." And those words stuck with me, even till this day. I remember feeling hurt. I remember feeling vulnerable. I remember feeling hopeless because I really thought I wasn't talented enough. That experience created a fixed mindset in myself, where instead of improving, it halted my growth. But luckily, with a bit of elbow grease and some support from my parents, I managed to improve it wrong. But wait, what am I trying to get at? Well, maybe talent isn't always black or white. Maybe talent can be something you earn rather than something you're born with. Let me give you a famous example. Let's say Albert Einstein. He was called slow and mentally withdrawn by his early teachers at a young age. But today, we know him as the father of modern physics, the man who created the theory of relativity. But wait, he wasn't talented. What about Ludwig van Beethoven? He was called rough, clumsy, and uncontrolled. He was even called dopey, which means idiotic, by his own family. But today, he's one of the most popular classical artists, known as the Master, a man who revolutionized Western classical music. And if you ask me, it's pretty hard to make music when you can't hear. But wait, he wasn't talented. Wait, let me give you a more ordinary example. Let's say in a classroom, we have two students. Student who excels and the other just looks at his paper like it's a piece of graffiti. We often praise the first for being a natural, but we pressure the second to try harder. But one thing we don't see is what happens outside of the classroom. Maybe the first student had before class, or maybe the second was daydreaming about lunch instead of listening. Remember, it doesn't just fall from the sky. It is a foundation built on confidence and exposure that's rarely distributed equally. So wait, am I saying I'm the next Einstein? Well, no. What I'm trying to say is, ultimately, talent. No one is born with talent, but everyone is born with potential. The rest is just up to you. Everyone mentioned before weren't born gifted. You can even say that they were below average. But at that stage, skill is quiet, unpolished, and easy to overlook. But as skills grow, it becomes talent. That's how they reach their peak. From Einstein to Beethoven, they had to practice, fail, and be bad at what they did to get to the position and praise they achieved. Because what we call talent is just the tip of a very deep, messy iceberg. We often see the finished product, but what we don't see is the years of confusion, crumpled up drafts, and frustration of not being good enough yet. Even I was trapped by the word talent. It sounds like a compliment, but to me, it feels like an anchor because when someone is labeled as gifted early on, they try to protect that label at all costs. They become afraid. They're afraid that they might mess up. They're afraid that when the mask slips off, everyone will see they're just ordinary. But on the flip side, I've seen many people look at other people's success and just think to themselves that they're not born with that spark. They just walk away without even letting themselves be bad at it. But remember, learning something new can be frustrating. Being a beginner can be embarrassing. But what I've learned is that frustration is actually the sound of growth. It is the feeling of your brain rewiring itself from that effort you put in. But remember, effort isn't a magic wand. Effort won't guarantee you to be the best in the world, but what it does do is open doors that labels try to lock. But does that mean you can learn any talent just by putting in that hint of extra effort? Well, simply no, because talent is more like a spectrum. Talent is like an onion. It has layers because some talents are outside of the spectrum of being learned. We usually call these traits. A study done by Nanyang Institute showed that human genotypes, which is the blueprint of our body, often contribute to. Let me give you an example. Let's say in a basketball tryout, we have two players, one taller player and one shorter one. The coach's eye will be more naturally drawn to the taller player simply because you can't teach height. But does that mean the taller player is automatically better than the shorter one? Well, no, because the taller player will just have an easier time doing certain things because of his traits. But that doesn't mean the shorter player can't work around them. Further study done by Catherine North showed that genes such as ACTN3 often contribute to speed and strength. So genes and biology really do a big role. But remember, talent isn't always black or white. Sometimes talent can be something you work towards, while other times talent is more like a lottery because genes and biology are really out of our control. So how would I define the word talent? Well, to me, talent is like a hand of cards. You don't choose which cards you get, but it's up to you how you play them. A famous player named Bob Ross said it best, quote, "Talent is pursued interest," end quote. Talent is just commitment in disguise. You can learn any talent, but nature does draw a line. But what separates a big life from a small one isn't the cards you get, but it's having the courage to keep playing them. Thank you.